The spring air was crisp, carrying the scent of blooming flowers and fresh earth, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within me. Linda and I sat on our terrace, a space that had witnessed countless evenings of shared dreams and laughter. Tonight, however, the atmosphere was charged with an unspoken tension, a prelude to the storm that was about to break. Linda poured herself another glass of wine, the liquid ruby red against the backdrop of our fading day. "Mark," she began, her voice slightly unsteady, "I've decided not to go to Chicago next week." The statement, simple and unexpected, hit me like a freight train. For a decade, these trips had been a constant, her twice-yearly pilgrimage under the guise of extravagant shopping sprees. I had known, of course, about the real reason for her visits, her affair with David. Yet, hearing her cancel the trip, especially after David's recent death, felt like the opening of a Pandora's box I wasn't sure I was ready to confront. "Why the sudden change?" I asked, striving to keep my voice neutral, though curiosity and a hint of satisfaction blowed through. Linda hesitated, swirling her wine before taking a sip. "I just don't see the point anymore. It's not the same without." Her voice trailed off, the unsaid name hanging between us like a specter. "Without David?" I finished for her, watching as her face paled, the mention of her lover's name a confirmation of the secret we had both kept from each other. "Yes," she whispered, barely audible. "Without David." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the weight of unspoken accusations and grief. I took a moment to observe her, the woman I had married, now a stranger bound to me by a web of lies and betrayal. It was a surreal realization, the depth of our mutual deceit laid bare by her admission. "Linda," I said, my voice firmer now, "did you ever think about us? About what your trips to Chicago meant for our marriage?" She looked up, her eyes meeting mine, a flicker of defensiveness passing through them. "It was just a fling, Mark. It didn't mean anything. I always came back to you." "A fling that lasted 10 years, I pointed out, the bitterness I had kept at bay for so long surfacing. "You came back to me, but were you ever really here?" Linda opened her mouth to respond, then closed it, as if realizing the futility of her arguments. We were beyond excuses, beyond the lies we told ourselves to justify our actions. The rest of the evening passed in a tense silence, each lost in our own thoughts. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across our terrace, I couldn't help but feel that it symbolized the end of an era for us. The truth, long hidden in the shadows, was finally out in the open, and there was no going back. The spring evening, once a symbol of renewal and hope, now felt unsettlingly ominous, a precursor to the inevitable unraveling of the life we had built together. The night had deepened, wrapping our terrace in a blanket of darkness, pierced only by the soft glow of the outdoor lights. Linda and I remained seated, prisoners of the revelations that had unfolded between us. The air was cooler now, but the chill couldn't compare to the iciness that had settled in my heart. "I never thought it would end like this." Linda finally broke the silence, her voice laced with a mixture of regret and defiance. "David's death, it changed everything." Her admission hung in the air, a ghost from the past that refused to be laid to rest. David, her lover, had been a constant shadow in our marriage, an invisible third in our union. His sudden death in a botched robbery was a shock, not just to Linda, but to me as well. It was a cruel twist of fate that had abruptly severed their affair, leaving Linda adrift and me, for the first time, contemplating the reality of our situation. "Change everything, or it just made you realize you couldn't continue living a lie?" I asked, my tone sharper than I intended. The pain of her betrayal, once dulled by my own secrets and indifference, now cut through me with renewed vigor. Linda flinched at my words, then sighed, a sound heavy with sorrow. "Maybe both. I loved him, Mark. But I also love you. I thought I could keep my two worlds separate, but David's death, it made me see how selfish I've been." "Love," I scoffed, the word bitter on my tongue. "Is that what you call it? Love doesn't thrive on deceit, Linda. It doesn't destroy the trust between two people." She looked away, the moonlight casting shadows across her face, highlighting the strain of our conversation. "I know I've hurt you, Mark. And I'm sorry, truly. I don't know how to make things right between us." The honesty in her voice caught me off guard. For so long we had danced around the truth, cloaking our pain and resentment in a veneer of normalcy. Now, with everything laid bare, the complexity of our emotions was overwhelming. Making things right, I muse, the concept feeling foreign and yet desperately sought after. I'm not sure we can, Linda. Not after everything. A silence fell between us, thick and suffocating. The ghost of David of the affair lingered like a specter over our marriage, a reminder of the love lost and the trust shattered beyond repair. As we sat in the darkness, the reality of our situation settled over me like a shroud. Linda and I were bound by years of shared history, by love and betrayal in equal measure. The path forward was uncertain, fraught with the pain of the past and the daunting task of rebuilding what had been broken. The ghost of affairs past, it seemed, was not easily exorcised. It would haunt us, a constant reminder of the choices we had made and the consequences we now faced. The terrace, once a sanctuary of love and shared secrets, now felt like a courtroom where the final verdict on our marriage was to be delivered. The night air, tinged with the scent of jasmine, did little to soothe the tumultuous storm brewing within me. Linda and I sat across from each other, the space between us filled with years of unspoken truths and hidden wounds. "Mark, there's something else I need to tell you," Linda said, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it cut through the silence with the precision of a knife. I tensed, bracing myself for another blow. "What is it?" My voice was steady, but inside I was a maelstrom of emotions, each revelation chipping away at the remnants of the life I thought we had. "It wasn't just David," she confessed, avoiding my gaze. "There were others. Not many, but enough to make me realize how lost I've been." The words hit me like a physical force, knocking the breath from my lungs. The affair with David, as painful as it was, had become a fact of life I had learned to live with. But to hear there were others shattered the fragile truce I had made with my heart. Others? My voice was hoarse, the word foreign and unimaginable. "Why, Linda? Was I not enough for you?" She finally met my gaze, tears glistening in her eyes. "It was never about you not being enough, Mark. It was me. I was the one who wasn't enough. I was searching for something, anything, to fill the void inside me. But all I did was create more emptiness." Her admission lay bare the depth of her despair, a mirror to my own loneliness within our marriage. We had become strangers, each lost in our own quest for fulfillment, only to find ourselves more lost than ever. "How do we come back from this, Linda?" I asked, the weight of our broken vows pressing down on me. "Can we even come back from this?" "I don't know," she admitted, a sob breaking through her composure. "But I want to try, Mark. If you're willing to give me a chance, I want to try to make things right. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to try to be the wife you deserve." Her plea, raw and sincere, resonated with a part of me I thought had been extinguished by her betrayals. Despite the pain, the anger, and the sense of betrayal, I realized that the love I had for her, though battered and bruised, still lingered. "Linda, I'm not sure what the future holds for us," I said, the honesty in her eyes compelling me to offer my own. "But I'm willing to try. Not for the sake of the past, but for the possibility of a future where we can both find the happiness we've been searching for." A fragile hope flickered between us, a tentative bridge over the chasm that had divided our hearts. The path to healing would be long and fraught with challenges, but for the first time in years, the prospect of facing them together didn't seem insurmountable. As we sat on the terrace, the sight of so many revelations, I couldn't help but feel that, in exposing our deepest wounds, we had taken the first step toward healing them. The night, with its blanket of stars, seemed to whisper a promise of renewal, a chance to rebuild our love from the ashes of our past. The weeks that followed were a testament to the fragility of trust and the arduous journey of rebuilding it. Each day was a tightrope walk between hope and despair, our marriage hanging by the thinnest of threads. The revelations on the terrace had laid the groundwork for healing, yet the path forward was fraught with unexpected hurdles. One evening, as autumn painted the leaves with hues of gold and crimson, Linda and I found ourselves in the living room, surrounded by the ghosts of our past. The air was thick with tension, a silent acknowledgement of the conversation that loomed over us. "Mark, we need to talk about how we move forward from here," Linda began, her voice steady but her hands betraying her nervousness as they fidgeted with the hem of her shirt. I nodded, the weight of her words pressing down on me. "Yes, we do. But Linda, moving forward means facing some hard truths. It means acknowledging the hurt and finding a way to forgive, not just you, but myself as well." She met my gaze, her eyes brimming with tears. "I know, and I'm so sorry, Mark, for everything. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. All I can do is promise to be better, to do better. Her words, sincere and filled with remorse, struck a chord within me. Yet, the shadow of doubt lingered, a constant reminder of the betrayals that had brought us to this precipice. Linda, your promises, they mean something to me, they really do. But how do I trust them? How do I trust you after everything? The question hung between us, heavy and suffocating. She swallowed hard, the vulnerability in her expression laying bare her own fears. I don't know, Mark. All I can say is that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Therapy, counseling, anything. I don't want to lose you. The sincerity in her plea resonated with the part of me that still clung to the remnants of our love, yet the scars of her betrayal ran deep, casting a long shadow over her promises. It's not just about not wanting to lose each other, Linda. It's about whether we can find a way to truly forgive and rebuild on a foundation that's been shattered. Are we holding on to something real, or are we clinging to the memory of what we used to be? I countered, the uncertainty of our future a gnawing presence in my heart. Her response was a whisper, laden with fear and hope. I believe there's something real here, Mark. Something worth fighting for. But I know it's not just my decision to make. It's ours, together. The conversation stretched into the night, a delicate dance of confession, confrontation, and tentative reconciliation. With each word, the facade of our former lives continued to unravel, revealing the raw and tender wounds beneath. As the night gave way to the first light of dawn, a fragile understanding began to form between us. The road to healing was uncertain, paved with the potential for pain and disappointment. Yet, it also held the promise of redemption and a love reborn from the ashes of our unraveling. In the quiet of the early morning, with the world around us still asleep, Linda and I sat side by side, united in our resolve to face the challenges ahead. The journey would be long, and the outcome uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, we were willing to walk it together, hand in hand, into the unknown. The days following our night of vulnerable admissions were filled with a cautious optimism. Linda and I had committed to a path of healing, embarking on couples therapy and dedicating time to reconnect. Yet the specter of the past loomed large, a silent adversary waiting to strike. It was during one of these seemingly brighter days that the fragile peace we'd begun to nurture was threatened. I had come home early from work, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the living room. The house was quiet, too quiet, and the sense of unease settled over me as I called out for Linda, receiving no response. Wandering into the kitchen, I noticed Linda's phone on the counter, a message lighting up the screen. A voice inside me urged caution, a reminder of the trust we were trying to rebuild. Yet, curiosity, that old fiend, got the better of me. The message was innocuous enough, a casual conversation with a friend. But as I scrolled through, a name caught my eye, a name that shouldn't have been there. David. My heart raced as I read the messages, exchanges filled with a familiarity and intimacy that had no place in our lives now. Betrayal, once again, felt like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. Linda? My voice was a mix of confusion and anger when she finally walked into the room. Her smile faltered as she saw her phone in my hand. Mark, it's not what you think, she began, the panic in her voice rising. Not what I think. Linda, how could you still be in contact with him after everything? The words tumbled out, each one laced with a sense of betrayal and disbelief. She reached for the phone, a desperate attempt to explain. Mark, please, let me explain. It's not what it looks like. We're just friends, nothing more. Friends? The word felt like a mockery. How can you be just friends with someone you had an affair with? How can I trust anything you say? Linda's face crumpled, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. I know it was a mistake to talk to him, but it was just casual conversation, nothing more. I was trying to find closure, to move on for us. For us? Or for you, Linda? The distinction felt important, a line drawn in the sand. How can we move forward if we're still looking back? She was silent for a moment, collecting her thoughts. You're right. It was selfish of me. I thought I could handle it, but I see now that it was a mistake. I'm sorry, Mark. I don't want to lose what we're trying to rebuild. The room was thick with tension, a crossroads of our efforts to mend our relationship. The path forward was unclear, the trust we'd been carefully piecing together now fractured once more. Linda, I want to believe you. I want to believe in us. But this makes me question everything. We need to be open, completely transparent with each other if we're going to get through this. Her nod was slow, an acceptance of the hard truth between us. I know, and I will be. I'll do anything to make this right, Mark, I promise. The conversation that followed was long and difficult, a painful yet necessary step towards understanding and forgiveness. The road to rebuilding trust was proving to be longer and more complex than either of us had anticipated. Yet it was a journey we were both still willing to undertake, armed with the hope that, in the end, our love could emerge stronger from the trials it had endured. In the wake of the uncovered messages, the atmosphere in our home had shifted. The air was thick with unspoken words and the ghosts of promises broken. Linda and I moved around each other like two planets in the same orbit, close yet miles apart. The therapy sessions, once a beacon of hope, now felt more like a lifeline we were both desperately clinging to. It was during one of these sessions that the dam finally broke. The therapist, Dr. Ellis, had a way of navigating through our defenses, guiding us to the heart of our pain and confusion. Mark, Linda, it's clear that there are deep wounds here, Dr. Ellis began, her voice calm and grounding. But it's also clear that there's love. The question is, can that love be the foundation you both rebuild upon? Linda reached for my hand, a gesture that once would have brought me comfort. Now it only served as a reminder of the chasm between us. Mark, I know I've made mistakes I'll regret for the rest of my life. But I love you. I love us. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove that to you, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. I looked into her eyes, searching for the truth in her words. Linda, I want to believe that. I do. But love isn't just about feelings. It's about actions, about choices. And I'm struggling to reconcile the choices you've made with the future I thought we were building together. Dr. Ellis nodded, acknowledging the pain in my words. Mark, that's understandable. Trust has been broken, and rebuilding it isn't easy. It requires time, patience, and a commitment to transparency. Are you both willing to commit to that process? The room fell silent, the weight of her question hanging in the air. It was a crossroads, a moment that demanded a decision not just of the heart, but of the soul. Linda squeezed my hand, her voice barely a whisper. I'm committed, Mark, completely. I took a deep breath, the magnitude of the decision before me clearer than ever. Dr. Ellis, I want to rebuild that trust. I want to believe in us again. But I need time. Time to heal, to forgive. And I need to know, without a shadow of a doubt, that we're moving forward together with honesty and openness. Dr. Ellis smiled, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. That's a fair and healthy approach, Mark. Healing is a journey, not a destination. And it's a journey you don't have to walk alone. As we left the session that day, there was a sense of tentative hope between us. The decision to rebuild was not made lightly, nor was it the end of the road. It was, however, a step forward, a commitment to face the challenges ahead together. The days that followed were filled with small gestures of trust and understanding. Linda and I began to communicate more openly, sharing our fears, our hopes, and the love that had survived the storm. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Linda turned to me, her eyes reflecting the golden hues of the sky. Mark, I know we have a long road ahead, but I believe in us. I believe in the love we have for each other, and I'm grateful for the chance to prove that to you every day. I took her hand in mine, the warmth of her skin a reminder of the connection that had endured through the darkest of times. Linda, I believe in us too, and I'm grateful for the chance to rebuild, to rediscover the love that brought us together in the first place. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in a soft glow, I realized that the decision to rebuild was not just about mending what was broken. It was about choosing to love, to trust, and to hope, even in the face of uncertainty. And with that decision, Linda and I stepped into the future, together. Months had passed since the day in Dr. Ellis' office when we decided to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't an easy journey. It was filled with moments of doubt, fear, and vulnerability. Yet, with each step forward, we found new strength in each other, a testament to the resilience of love when nurtured with honesty and commitment. One crisp autumn evening, as we prepared dinner together in our kitchen, a routine that had become a cherished part of our new beginning, I couldn't help but notice the change in us. The kitchen, once a battleground of silent meals and unspoken grievances, was now filled with laughter and the warm aroma of shared cooking. Linda caught me staring, a playful smile on her lips. What? Do I have something on my face? She teased, wiping her hands on her apron. No, it's just, I was thinking about how far we've come. I replied, my heart swelling with a mixture of pride and love. I mean, look at us. Who would have thought we'd find our way back to this? Her smile softened, her eyes meeting mine with a depth of emotion that still took my breath away. I always hoped we would. But hoping and living it are two different things. We've worked hard to get here, Mark, and I'm so grateful for that, for us. I nodded, the truth of her words resonating deeply. I am too. It's been an incredible journey. Not easy, but incredible. And you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world. As we sat down to eat, the conversation flowed easily, touching on plans for the future, reflections on the past, and the simple, everyday moments that now held so much more meaning. Later, as we cleaned up together, Linda turned to me, a hint of nervousness in her expression. Mark, there's something I've been wanting to talk to you about, she began, her voice hesitant. I dried my hands, turning to face her fully. What is it? You know you can tell me anything. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. I've been thinking about us, about our future. And I would like for us to renew our vows. Not as a way to erase the past, but to celebrate how far we've come and to reaffirm our commitment to each other. The proposal took me by surprise, a wave of emotions flooding through me. Linda, I think that's a beautiful idea, I managed to say, my voice thick with emotion. Her face lit up, relief and happiness mingling in her smile. Really? You think so? I stepped closer, taking her hands in mine. Yes, really. There's nothing I want more than to stand before you and the world and say, I choose you, Linda, today, tomorrow, and every day after. Tears glistened in her eyes, mirroring the joy in my heart. And I choose you, Mark. Always. As we embraced, the pieces of our broken past seemed to fall away, leaving only the promise of a future built on a foundation of love, trust, and forgiveness. It was a new beginning, not just for our relationship, but for us as individuals, stronger and more connected than we'd ever been. Renewing our vows wasn't just a ceremony, it was a symbol of our journey, a testament to the power of love to heal and transform. And as we stood hand in hand, surrounded by the few close friends and family we'd invited to share in our moment, I knew that this was not the end of our story, but the start of a new chapter, one filled with hope, love, and the unwavering belief that together we could overcome anything.